When Cynthia Kika and Ulysses Percival opened a shop in Chihuahua, Mexico, they thought they'd found their very own piece of paradise.
I gave thanks every day that I was living in Mexico. I was like, oh, thank you.
But they found themselves living a nightmare on the wrong side of the border.
Two of them had machine guns. Another guy had a pistol.
They're going to kill me. I'm going to die here.
If you don't go along with this, your husband's going to get another torture treatment.
I had to invent something that would save mine and Cynthia's lives.
What the hell are you doing? What do you want from us?
In 1986, Minnesota native Cynthia Kika was living in Mexico selling her handmade jewelry on the streets. That same year, she met protest singer Ulysses Percival in Mexico City. They fell head over heels in love, and within a few months were married.
Ulysses, he knows how to talk to people, very charismatic. If he starts playing a song, pretty soon he'll have 100 people around him because he kind of stands out in the crowd.
I had lots of girlfriends, but they didn't have what she had. She was someone very special, very sweet and spiritual.
We started hanging out together and traveling all over Mexico, which I loved because it was a way to make contact with the people.
The couple relished their life of total freedom. But after 12 years on the road, they decided to settle down and open a handicraft store in Chihuahua, a large town in northern Mexico.
We passed through Chihuahua a couple times on our way up to the States. Ulysses had always liked the town.
I liked it because of the desert, the wildlife, and the local people. The mountains.
Chihuahua is a little bit old-fashioned, very isolated. It was very conservative, and people tended to be very involved with the church.
The business soon became a popular hangout for local youth. Teenagers flocked to the store to snap up Cynthia's jewelry.
It was right on a bus line there, and a lot of young people especially got off that bus stop. It became kind of an instant success.
We were doing good business, and the people were appreciative of our work.
Ulysses would occasionally play his music, and I think the young people got a big kick out of that.
We sold T-shirts with political figures. We also had candles and that sort of thing. Incense, folk art from different parts of Mexico.
We had a few parties where we were playing music, invited people over, people that we knew from the store. He always had a message of his songs, kind of spiritual messages sometimes, or maybe a little political messages. I felt like we were standing on our own 2 feet, living on our artwork and music.
But not everyone appreciated the couple and their bohemian lifestyle.
We began to notice that we were very different than most people in Chihuahua, and not in a good way.
There was murmurings that I would notice sometimes about other people who thought we were strange.
Cynthia and Ulysses dress in kind of an alternative style. Their appearance was viewed with with some alarm by the people in Chihuahua.
Some people talked about, oh, there's satanic people. That always seemed pretty absurd and kind of crazy to me. That day was a Friday. The usual routine, waiting on clients and stuff. We came home around 9. I had just gotten some new materials, some stones I was anxious to work on. And I was gonna make a necklace and sitting on the bed in our bedroom. And all of a sudden, there's a huge crash at the front door. Before we know it, there's a man who rushed into the house with a big 4-foot mallet. He's followed by 5 or 6 men. 2 of them had machine guns. Another guy had a pistol. They grabbed Ulysses and dragged him out through the front door. And then 2 other guys grabbed me, and I'm holding on to door frames and trying to resist. It was like they were kidnapping me. And I thought maybe they came to, like, kill me. And
American Cynthia Kika and her Mexican husband Ulysses Percival were abducted from their Chihuahua home and thrown into waiting vehicles.
They pushed me in the van and closed the door and had my head down in the seat with somebody's knee in the back of my neck. I said, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. I didn't know what they wanted.
Ahorita, ya no la quiero escuchar más.
I had no idea why this was happening. I thought these guys, for whatever reason, had orders to terminate us.
After about 10-15 minutes, they stopped, and I could hear like an iron gate opening.
Upon arriving, I hear a door open electronically. It's an electronic sound, and I hear it close.
I didn't know what was going on.
To their shock, the couple discovered their kidnappers were, in fact, the police. Once in custody at the local station, Cynthia and Ulysses were taken to separate rooms. They soon discovered why they were there.
They started saying, you're gonna confess and you killed Viviana. And I just told them I didn't know what they're talking about.
One of the cops says, you know who Viviana is. I tell him no, that name isn't familiar.
The girl police were trying to link the couple to was 16-year-old Viviana Reyes. She had disappeared from Chihuahua 10 weeks earlier. The teen was but one of hundreds of young women and girls who'd gone missing in the north of the country since 1994. Most eventually turned up dead, dumped in the vast deserts bordering America.
Over 400 missing women. And they tried to find the murderers, but they still hadn't seemed to have been able to find out who was behind all this. There'd been many mothers frantically waiting for some kind of justice.
The wave of murders had started in the city of Juarez, but had recently started to move south to Chihuahua.
These crimes, you know, it didn't affect our lives personally, so it was just something that you hear about like anybody else.
But now Cynthia and Ulysses were implicated in one of the murders.
Cintia. ¿Cómo estás, guapa? Mírala la Viviana Rayas.
No.
¿Cómo que no? Claro que sí. ¿Te recuerdas de Viviana Rayas?
No, soy Viviana.
We didn't know Viviana. She wasn't a friend of ours or anything. We just heard about her, that she went missing. They wanted to accuse us of this crime, and they were gonna get us to say what they wanted.
No. No, soy Viviana.
Ah, bueno, pues es tu problema, hija. ¡Juan! ¡Pablo! ¡Hala! ¡Ven, arréglala esta!
They had some electric shock, and they started shocking me on my legs and on my back.
They ran an electrical current through my testicles and everywhere else on my body.
He was screaming. I could hear sounds of beating. I could hear them hitting him. They started piecing together a story saying, you had a party and you invited her to your house. And then asking questions and filling in their own answers.
¿Nos vas a decir qué pasó con Viviana Rayas? Que tú y Ulises lo mataron.
There was a feeling of panic, but there's no escape.
Dile lo que pasó con Viviana Rayas. No. Sí, que tú.
They finally said, you killed Viviana. If you don't say that you killed her, we're gonna shove a stick up your ass and his too.
Though they claimed innocence, their status as outsiders had put the couple on the police radar for some time. Interest in them increased in 2002 after they joined a protest movement called the Women in Black.
The Women in Black was an organization from Juarez, and they were mothers and friends of women who had been found murdered or missing. We went to a march to support the people who were trying to make headway with the government. They had erected pink crosses with the names of over 400 women that were missing or found dead. It just makes you cringe to think of what they go through. If you start imagining what could be happening to these girls, somebody's got to do something before there's another one. And Ulysses played a song.
We cannot see that injustice and not protest against it. Young women were being killed.
He had one song that the judicial police didn't like very much called Marrano Judicial, which means police pigs. It was kind of denouncing corrupt officials and their mistreatment of and abuses of human rights.
but the price paid for insulting the police turned out to be very high.
Si no, aquí tengo un gran amigo que te va a dar 120 voltios.
No.
Torturas, golpes.
They continued to beat me, electrocute me, and I thought they were really going to kill me.
Tal vez matarnos, ¿no?
The rest of it was ominous silence, and that was also bad because in those pauses, you don't know exactly what they're doing next.
Obviously, I began to scream because it's an incredibly intense pain.
The screams and then the zapping noise echoing in that room, and it's just sickening.
Unlike the hundreds of other homicides, police were determined to lay charges in the murder of Viviana Reyes. She was a special case. Her father, an important man.
Senor Reyes, who is the father of the girl Viviana, waited 2.5 months for the police to find his missing daughter. And he felt they were not following up on clues. So he got a group together to demonstrate one day and took a bullhorn and went under the Attorney General's office. And said, if you don't find my daughter, I'm going to close down the toll taking of the Chihuahua Highway. And he could do that because he was a union official.
I think the pressure did get to the government, and that's why they started acting. The heat was on them to find some answers real quick.
On May the 28th, 2 days after Senor Reyes had issued his ultimatum, a badly decomposed body was found in the desert not far from town.
A day after that, they identified it as Viviana.
"48 hours later, on May the 31st, Cynthia and Ulysses were being tortured for the crime.
So I said to myself, you have to confess or else they're not going to stop. They said, you held a party, right? Yes, we held a party. There was nothing left but for me to invent the kind of story they wanted. They're the directors of this movie, and we are the actors.
De los actores de esta película. La muerte a los dos.
I put my hand on his hand and I said, Ulysses, what's going on? What should we do? And he said, just go along with it. Just do what they say. Just do what they say.
I said, you have to give them what they want. Accept it. It's your only chance to save your life.
So then I said, okay, yeah, we did it. And I just started repeating what they told me to repeat.
We had a party.
They brought us out to an office, and there was a video there. And then they just said, okay, now repeat the story how we told you.
She had too many drugs, and she passed out, and she went...
The story that they were saying to me is that we had a party. Viviana was there, and she was given drugs. There was other people at the party. They were drinking peyote tea.
We lured Viviana to our satanic party and involved her in heavy rock music and devil worship. We were all dressed in black. We had an altar and a pentagram, a room full of candles.
Ulysses was cutting up chicken heads and speaking in tongues.
We drugged Viviana with peyote, and she got sick.
She had a convulsion. I was supposed to have gone and see if she was okay.
But apparently I had been paying too much attention to Viviana. So my wife became jealous and smashed her on the head with a pipe.
Me, Ulysses, supposedly put Viviana in a blanket and then put her in the back of the minivan, and then we drove out to the outskirts of Chihuahua and dumped the body off and went home.
I killed her with a pipe.
So I just sat there and kind of lamely repeated the story that they had given me.
And left her there.
And then they typed out the statement and made me sign it. Just threatened me some more. If you don't go along with this, your husband's gonna get another torture treatment.
If you don't sign, they'll sign for you. It's the same, no?
Señorita Kika!
She died. She fell on the floor. She was bleeding, and
Their confession would only be the beginning of the couple's brutal journey through the Mexican judicial system. After torturing Cynthia and Ulysses into false confessions for the murder of 16-year-old Viviana Reyes, Mexican police continued to build their case against the couple. First, they took Ulysses back to his store to recover a bag that supposedly belonged to his victim.
They were beating me. They said, look, if the bag doesn't appear, we're going to beat you to death. I thought to myself, they're going to kill me. I'm going to die here. After searching for the bag, they finally said, we can't find it here. Since they couldn't find it, they grabbed the bag from our house that was similar, and they said, hey, this is the bag.
Next, the couple was forced to give the names of their friends, Manuel and Erica, who supposedly witnessed the murder. The pair were quickly arrested and brought to the police station.
Manuel Lopez comes in, and he's like, what's going on, what's going on?
It's crazy, this is like
Hola, Manuel!
And they took him away, and then I could hear him screaming, and they were torturing him too. He was burned from the electricity, and they said they'd shocked him in his genitals too. And eventually Erica was there, and she said, Cynthia, what's going on? She said, how come you said that I was at a party? And I said, what party? There is no party. They're making this thing up. They had manipulated her into telling them that, yes, there was a party. They threatened to throw her in prison, and she would lose her 2-year-old. She had a little boy.
In the morning, very early, 2 officials came, and they said, okay, we're going to take you out now, so you can give us the reconstruction of the events as they happened. And I said, the reconstruction of what events? And they said, the death of Viviana. What happened with all that?
They took him out to the site where the body had been found. They made him like act as if he had done the crime. So they even made him pick up one of the police and act like it was the body. The guy was super heavy and fat, and Ulysses was all beat up and stuff. He couldn't even like pick him up. So then they said, no, get a skinnier guy, and made him pick him up and act as if he had been dumping a body. And Ulysses said you could still smell the dead body smell where they took him, right where they had found this decomposed body. After everything we had said we would go along with it, we signed their confession, this and that, they were still giving him more shock treatments. I just lost it. I just started yelling, what are you doing? What the hell are you doing? What do you want from us? This guy goes, shut up, and he pushed me into a corner, and he took out a pamphlet of 5 of the missing girls that had been missing in Chihuahua, and he said, which one of these girls did you take? Which one are you responsible for? And Ulysses was screaming, so I just picked anybody, and I just said, that one, that one, that one. And then he just looked at me, and he said, you liar, and he slapped me in the face.
2 days after the arrest of Cynthia and Ulysses, Senor Reyes was informed that the murder of his daughter had been solved. The supposed killers were paraded before the press.
Señoras y señores, gracias.
They walked us in and lined us up in the bright lights, and there was a backdrop of the judicial official emblem. We're presenting these as the suspected murders, or however they termed it. It was just a real sinking feeling. Wondering if I was going to spend the rest of my life in jail for something I didn't do. Just wondering, well, how am I going to prove my innocence?
The couple were then immediately thrown into the dangerous Centro de Rehabilitación, a state prison.
They took me to my cell. That was where most of the worst drug addicts and a couple of kind of crazy women were. I guess assuming from the reports that I was also a drug addict and crazy person. There was drug use going on, heroin. They would heat it up with little plastic spoons and sniff it. There was another roommate who, she looked pretty tough. The next morning, I realized that I had left some money in a pocket of my pants. She stole it right away.
I lay down in the bed, and I couldn't move because of the pain from the beatings. I began to think about our lives in Chihuahua before this happened. I imagined it on the wall. It looked like a film, the film of our peaceful lives in Chihuahua. More than anything, I began to think about Cynthia, how she was doing.
At night, I still wasn't sleeping. I was still paranoid that the judiciales were going to come in and try and take me away. I just was nervous, thinking that one of the other women might want to beat me up. I wasn't really eating at that point, hardly at all. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep.
I'll never forget driving out to the prison. It's got the barbed wire, of course, on the top of the walls and the gun turret things. And I thought, oh, if she's got an orange jumpsuit and is in shackles, I am gonna just die. I had never been in a prison in my life, and it just is such a shock. She looked all right, more or less. I mean, she looked tired and she looked stressed. It's some unanticipated moment in a mother's life where you would ever have to face something like that with your child.
Cynthia hired a lawyer for herself and her husband. But 3 months passed in limbo before the couple was summoned to a crucial court hearing to establish whether there was sufficient evidence to proceed to full trial.
I saw Ulysses coming from the opposite direction. It was the first time we had seen each other for a long time.
When I saw Cynthia after 3 months, I felt I was born again.
In that moment, the couple made an extraordinary decision that brought with it huge risk.
We made a pact. We made a deal to resist everything that was to come.
We were just having a quiet...
In defiance of police orders, they told the court of their ordeal.
We didn't even know where we were.
We basically recounted all the details of the torture, and we said we're innocent. We explained we didn't know this girl, Viviana. We'd never met her. It was all made up. And I guess that didn't count for a thing in his eyes, and the judge decided that he wasn't going to throw the case out, that there was merit for the accusations, and we were now officially imprisoned. I was very angry. Even after we explained everything that had happened, there was a big wall of people against us that were determined to have us tried and committed to jail for something that we didn't do. And so we kissed goodbye and we said, we'll see you soon.
The lawyer at this point was saying how serious this was because many, many people in Mexico have been accused of a crime like this and are still in prison forever. In terms of hope to get her out, there was practically none. But, you know, when you've been brought up in a Minnesota farm family, there's no time for crying at that point. At that point, you have to roll up your sleeves and figure out what you're going to try to do.
Carol Kieker and her daughter's attorney set out to dismantle the police case brick by brick. The first step was to track down prosecution star witnesses Manuel and Erica. Cynthia and Ulysses had already retracted their confessions. Would these two risk doing the same?
I was outside and somebody told me, Cynthia, we saw on the news, 2 of your friends came forward and retracted their statements. They had never been witnesses to this party that was non-existent. I was jumping up and down. I was so happy. That was kind of a breakthrough.
Erica testified under oath in court that this was all as a result of torturing her by saying she'd never see her 2-year-old son again. Both Manuel and Erica were heroes, in my estimation, that they were willing to come forward because they clearly put their lives at danger.
I thought at that time, well, if there's no witnesses, then this has got to be moving the case forward. I had expectations that this would be the clincher and we would soon probably be getting out.
But it was not to be. Despite the sensational revelations of torture and coercion, Cynthia and Ulysses remained in prison.
At this point, they had told me that there was visiting day. And all we would need was proof that we were married and we could see each other twice a week.
3 months after being arrested, their murder trial finally opened in Chihuahua.
The newspaper accounts over the next few days told of an account of this party having these real lurid details, such as cutting the heads off of chickens and cats and drinking the blood. Well, of course, that was so absurd. My daughter Cynthia is a vegetarian, for heaven's sakes.
Cynthia, Ulysses, Manuel, and Erica all took the stand to testify they'd made false confessions.
There had been no party. They had never laid eyes on Viviana. The neighbors even said there was no party. I think the most crazy I felt was when the trial was postponed for no good reason. There was the dentist who was going to identify Viviana from dental records who didn't show up. Oh, she was sick that day. And there was the policeman who was called, and he too didn't show up.
The court case dragged on for over 10 months.
Hearings came and went, and witnesses came and went, and they didn't have much of a case against us, but they still were very adamant that we were the guilty people, and they were doing everything in their power to convict us.
The outlook for Cynthia and Ulysses was bleak, but the desert had still not yielded all its secrets. "16 months after their arrest, Cynthia Kika and Ulysses Percival remained on trial for the murder of a teenage girl in Mexico.
So it's just trying to hang on to any kind of composure or sanity, or trying not to get too scared.
Then came a startling breakthrough. DNA tests on the murder victim cast doubt on whether the body found in the desert was actually that of Viviana Reyes.
In the very early discovery of the body, there were newspaper accounts about a 35-year-old female having been found. And after probably a year, the prosecution did reveal the results of the DNA test as inconclusive.
It also came to light that Senor Reyes had never actually seen his daughter's corpse.
Mr. Reyes was called in to identify Viviana, but they didn't show him this body. They showed him some clothes behind a display case.
Ulysses seized the moment to take an extraordinary step and contact the man whose intervention had first led to their arrest and torture. He too now looked to be the victim of a miscarriage of justice.
When I spoke to Mr. Reyes, I said he could rest assured that my wife and I didn't murder his daughter. He said that he knew that the two of us were innocent.
Once these unlikely allies became united in their quest for truth, things started to move quickly.
Our lawyers got the judge, finally, to give permission to have the body exhumed. And the Reyeses definitely wanted that too, because they had serious doubts that this was their daughter's body.
Further DNA tests were ordered. Their outcome would determine Cynthia and Ulysses' fate.
They called us and they said, "You're going to be going in for the verdict."
As I was walking to the courtroom, I thought it's possible we're going to be sentenced. We didn't know if they would give us 50 years.
We went to the room where the judge was, and he came right to the point and said, Cynthia and Ulysses are found not guilty and are acquitted of all charges against them. Everyone started hugging and clapping and screaming, and even the guards were happy, and even the prosecuting people were all happy.
That was the moment of judgment, receiving our liberty.
When they were released, one of my big worries was them getting across the border safely. American consulate sent down 2 women in a vehicle that was bulletproof. And they also had a pickup truck following that had 3 FBI men in it. So clearly they had some of the same concerns that I had.
There's newspaper people and the lawyers waiting for us, and outside of that door is freedom.
As the couple was set to leave, police tried to rearrest them.
Prison guards with huge guns surrounding us, and he said, we're going to the consulate. So I said, we're free to go, and we were pronounced innocent.
Apparently, the Attorney General was appealing their release.
We just wanted to leave as fast as possible, and the American consulate people were also very adamant that we should leave real soon. We were both very nervous. That's why I was glad to turn around and see this parade of people behind us that weren't letting us out of their sight.
We passed through the brush and the desert, exactly in the area where they had dumped so many of the murdered women. I said to Cynthia, I feel like a stranger in my own country.
The DNA results from the exhumation were never made public. But Cynthia and Ulysses believe they showed the murder victim was not Viviana Reyes. And that's why they were released. Cynthia and Ulysses now live in Cynthia's home state of Minnesota, where they've opened another jewelry and craft business and started a family.
3 years have gone by since we got out. We have a 2-year-old girl, and we also have our store.
We're recovering bit by bit all the things they took from us. And having a daughter was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
It's nice, but at the same time, I miss Mexico a lot. Maybe one of the reasons that happened to us was to shed light on a problem that's very deep in Mexico, and hopefully it has helped some other people in their struggles with human rights.